have time for maybe 2 zinger questions, or comments right here. Make it fast all the way in the back, and maybe we'll add one right here. So boom, go for it.
Thank you.
Who are you?
My name is Cheryl Nero. I have a question about how the disconnect between Mr. Steele's view and the leadership in his party is playing out, and when I hear you say we can find common projects, and yet the leadership in Washington says we will prevent you from accomplishing anything, how do you rationalize that?
So hold just a second. In the very back, run to the very back. He about jumped out of his chair out there.
So I've enjoyed this panel very much today. But when I watch the television news that many of you I see on, I experience a very different tone, different level of depth. And what I would like to hear is any of your comments about any improvements that could be done on the media.
This ought to be on TV, shouldn't it? Yeah. Thank you. We'll come back, and then right down here in front. A hand for our microphone friend here, who's just right down here in front.
The guy right here.
Thank you so much. Great.
I am Dr. Debbie, and along with the inequality that we're experiencing in this country is the inequality in education.
Right.
I know Louisiana is pretty low in literacy, like 49 out of 50. And I'm just wondering what is being done to help that in New Orleans.
Thank you. So we've got 3 great questions. One on sort of the complicity of the media in shallow, vapid commentary, which thankfully by implication you said we're not doing. The other is the Republican scene. And I'll broaden your question about inequality in education, just unevenness in a lot of these issues that we care about across the country. Is that okay? So quick answers, quick thoughts, David?
Well, on the media, I plead guilty. I'm part of the system that has, I think if Fred Friendly were here, he would tell us, whoa, this is a departure from where we thought we were going when television was in its early stages. And I think it reflects not only the business values, but it also reflects the decline in discourse in general in our politics and in our country. We're going to the lowest common denominator, and the media is covering it. And the language changes. What's acceptable now was you couldn't say some of these things some years ago. And in a campaign to go out and charge Mrs. Clinton with being corrupt, to be in criminal violation of the law, with no hard evidence, or to accuse Mr. Trump of being a fraud when there's lots of smoke, but we don't have yet see the fire. And we covered that stuff, and we move on, and it's now just sort of part of our culture, and it's going to take a long time to repair this. But I think if you start by trying to change the media, I don't think that's a winner. I think you start by trying to change the culture, and trying to change, and let there be new things the media can cover, and try to do it in a different way.
Thank you, Randy.
So our education, so there's one great thing about America, about education, which is we actually believe in access for everyone. And we say we believe in universal attainment, but we look at it through the lens of social economic situations. But what I think, and the schools, so let me say it this way. The schools that work throughout America actually do 4 things. They focus like a laser on how we build the capacity of the teaching and the principal force, how we build that capacity, including if somebody can't teach, they shouldn't be there. Number 2, we engage students. Engagement, not test, but engagement. Where kids are, not where we want them to be, and we bring them to where we want them to be. And number 3, we address students' and families' well-being, like what we were talking about at the very start of this session. If you focus on capacity, you engage kids, and you engage kids instructionally, and you address their and their families' well-being, and you do this in a collaborative model where parents and educators really have a voice and agency. Every school that collaborates, builds capacity, engages students instructionally, and addresses student well-being, every school, regardless of social and economics, is successful. That is what at least my union, with lots of our allies and partners, are now starting to try to not just advocate, but to engage with and to do.
Thank you. Mitch?
First of all, I would agree with everything she said, and it is true, Louisiana's probably 49th. My guess is most of the southern states are probably worse than everybody else, but even the best state in the United States of America is bad on literacy for children. We need to be really clear about that. And if there was one thing that we could do to help with income inequality, with crime, et cetera, literacy is just right up there at the top with all of them. And then I want to defend David. You know, I'm a news junkie, just like probably some folks, and I'm always on watching network news, and I'm watching Fox, and I'm watching CNN. I really have a hard time watching it now. And I see David struggling mightily with some of the idiotic things that are said by the panelists that are just hard to believe. I mean, things that nobody would ever say. And it's okay to have an opinion on the left or the right, but you can't not have an opinion that's not rooted in reality or the facts.
Thank you.
And they seemed, listen, this is true of everybody on all of it. They seem to be unmoored from the facts and reality. And David, I know because he's a man of great grace and dignity, tries to sit there, and I think he's sitting there going, what the hell got myself into? And it's a real problem.
I want to, before we leave, Mitch, can we just come back to this? Yeah. Yes, it is true the schools there in Louisiana are still very low, but the turnaround that's been going on in the schools in the last few years under his leadership is really remarkable in the city of New Orleans. You have to recognize that.
And just to make one claim on, Michael and I are both on MSNBC, and we are really both in that network trying to be David Gergen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Michael?
No, absolutely.
I wonder why your ratings are going down.
Well, this actually kind of dovetails into the question that you asked about the disconnect. Because right now, our leadership plays to the lowest common denominator.
Right.
It plays to the talking point. It plays to anything but the facts. I mean, how do you rationalize that? So how do you say to the country, when in 1992-93, the Heritage Foundation lays out a plan for health care in America? Sometime later, Barack Obama picks up that plan. Mitch Romney picks up that plan in his state of Massachusetts. And yet, in the presidential cycle, we can't talk about that plan rationally, and we say, oh my God, that's such a bad plan. So America looks at that and they go, well, wait a minute, it was your plan, you proposed it. Playing to the lowest common denominator is the new reality. Playing to anything but the facts or distorting the facts is the new reality. And that's what our politics has become. It's become finger-pointing, zero-sum game. I win, you lose. And it doesn't matter if 20 kids get shot in an elementary school in Sandy Hook. It doesn't matter if 49 people get killed in a nightclub. It doesn't matter if the educational system in this community, that community isn't working because of failed policies and backward looking and thinking. What matters is whether or not the interests in Washington and in our state capitals that are funded by the various coalitions of lobbyists and vendors and other like-minded mutants, if you allow them to poison the system, they will. And they have.